Standing up for Canada's roots, that is the topic of tonight's Byline. We have a real problem with fundamental freedoms in this country, and I'm getting worried. We are becoming such a statist country in Canada that people no longer worry about the level of government involvement in their lives. You'll remember about a year ago, we were talking about a family in Quebec that was ordered by a judge to send their kids to a government-run daycare. The family wanted to homeschool. They'd already been ordered by a judge to send their older children to school or lose them. Then a judge ordered the child that wasn't school-aged into daycare. You know, the $7 a day government-run system they have in Quebec. And the reasoning was so that the kid could be socialized. I didn't know that governments ran our lives and determined the level and type of socialization that our children need. Then again, until the Jesse Sansoni case, I didn't know that governments were also our parents.
I'm satisfied from the point of view of our staff did what was required. However, this is a difficult situation for the family to be in, and we do work hand in hand with these families because we co-parent.
Yes, the school can call the cops on you, have you arrested, strip searched, and have your kids taken away from you while Children's Aid investigates because they are your co-parent. Funny, if my wife did all of that without talking to me first, the way the school did to Jesse Sansoni, I might consider divorce. But today you can't divorce or even separate from the state. They're in your home. In Ontario, they set the temperature for your hot water. Yep. They adjust your shower for you. If you live in a new home or have to replace your hot water tank, you cannot get a hot shower. Trust me, I've tried. They have regulations calling for special water gauges that make sure the shower isn't too hot for you. This isn't just an Ontario or Quebec problem, though. In Alberta, we've told you about the government there, the Redford government, attempting to put in a new education bill that will dictate what is taught in the home and make home education subject to the same Alberta Human Rights Commission that prosecuted Ezra Levant for 900 days for daring to publish the Muhammad cartoons in his old magazine, The Western Standard. This is not what Canada was founded on. I was reading from Canada's founding debates again on the weekend and was struck by how often the Fathers of Confederation talked about civil and religious liberty. These were important to them, and it was important that government protect these liberties. Today, all of the above has actually happened within the last year, and I ask you, where is the outrage? Outside of Sun News and the odd, and I mean very odd, lone voice out there and other media outlets, where is the outrage at the increasing reach of government? It's not there because other media outlets don't see more government as a problem. It's always the answer. That's not how the men that founded this country thought. That's not what the men that fought and died for this country fought for. They didn't fight against tyrannical regimes and then come home to watch government grow to the point where even in your own home, you're not safe from the government's grasp. The latest offense came Friday. The McGuinty government in Ontario announced that under their anti-bullying legislation, all schools and all school boards will have to accept gay-straight alliances. End of story. Now, gay-straight alliances are sold as clubs for kids to meet and chat and eat pizza. Of course, they're more than that. They come with a specific political and sexual agenda, one which Catholic schools in this province have said they cannot accept because it goes against their faith. Too bad, says McGuinty, you must accept this. Now the government is not only your co-parent, they're your co-pastor. You don't need to be Catholic or even like Catholic schools to know that having the government run a religion and tell it what to think is a dangerous precedent. And that's the Byline. Joining me now for more on this is Sun News commentator and contributor John Robson. So John, are we prepared to give up basic freedoms as we deal with new realities or new issues in society? That seems to be what's happening. We just do away with the old.
Well, yes and no. We do seem willing to give up freedoms, but these are not new realities. I mean, diversity of beliefs, the role of a public education system in determining values as opposed simply to learning mathematics and writing and penmanship. These are very old questions. And in fact, the reason there's a public education system, by and large, is because of a desire to ensure that there was some common ground among citizens. The people who stuck their thumb into the pie, pulled out a thumb and went, wow, hey, I'm the first person who ever did that, pulled out a plum. These guys are just out to lunch. This finding common ground document that's one of the core ones in the new Ontario push to emphasize diversity by having everybody think the same way. But we are losing the right to freedom of religion. And as you said, you don't have to be a Catholic, it seems to me. You shouldn't have to be a Catholic to know what Catholicism is. It's basic. We cannot understand what's happening here unless we know whether or not this is an infringement of the right of Catholics to teach what their faith believes. And so I looked in the Catechism of the Catholic Church to find out what does it say about homosexuality. And what it says, because their view on sexuality is pretty clear, it must be within a committed, loving relationship open to procreation. Everything else is out. Everything else. Pornography, no. Infidelity, no. They're very strong on all this. And on homosexuality, they say, basing itself on sacred scripture, which presents homosexual acts as acts of grave depravity, tradition has always declared that, quote, homosexual acts are intrinsically disordered, end quote. Now you think, oh, that's an awfully mean thing to say about homosexuals. Look, the Catholic Church is going to give you the knuckle bone shampoo about a lot of things. Since we're talking about sex, let's see what it has to say about doing it yourself. It says, both the magisterium of the Church, in the course of a constant tradition, and the moral sense of the faithful, have been in no doubt and have firmly maintained that masturbation is an intrinsically and gravely disordered action. So, when the Catholic Church says this about homosexuality, they also say it about masturbation.
And they say it about divorce.
And
Divorce
there's no wiggle room here. Don't do it. That's what they're saying. And if you do it, you're gravely disordered. So, if you can't say that in a Catholic school, you can't have a Catholic school. And if someone wants to come along and say, well, you can't say that in a public school, so no Catholic schools, at least you're being clear. Your religion is not allowed in the public square. But people say, we tolerate, sure, we have a Catholic education system, but in the name of diversity, they just can't say that silly old thing. They can't listen to that silly old Pope, but we're not infringing their religious freedom. These people are too dumb to know what a religion is.
You say the whole funding issue. I think it's going to go past the funding issue pretty quickly, because on this issue of gay-straight alliances, before the government said, you've got to take it no matter what, Barbara Hall, Chief Commissar of the Ontario Human Rights Commission, shows up and says that this should apply to private schools. So even if you are paying for your own child's education, it's just like Alberta. I mean, it's like Alberta and it's like Quebec. The government's going to come in. This goes far beyond the issue of just Catholic education. The government's trying to dictate what you do in your own home, what you do in private associations, how you educate your own children.
I mean, because the idea, why are there Catholic schools? Originally, Ontario was a dominant Protestant province with a Catholic minority that was concerned that if their kids had to go into a public system, they'd be taught Protestant theology.
Which was in the curriculum at the time.
Had the choice of keeping the kids out, paying school taxes, they'd be double taxed, which is punitive, especially on people who don't have a lot of money, which most people didn't in those days. So they were told, okay, you can have a school system that teaches Catholic values the way the rest of the system teaches Protestant values, but you also got to teach them to read and write. And what the McGuinty government is now saying is, no, you can't teach Catholic values in school. In fact, you can't teach Protestant values either. We want an education system that teaches everybody modern, relativist, neo-non-existent values where diversity is the absolute bedrock, so no dissenting views are allowed. And of course that's got to reach beyond the Protestant Catholic schools. The point is to reshape the citizens into modern inhabitants of nowhere. And they're not going to be allowed not to do that.
John Robson, thanks for coming into the presses, as always.
My pleasure.